So this is my favorite part of the show. I interview a friend of mine. We talk about all the big issues and history and current affairs and whatnot, and make a little chat. It's a nice little chat. Today I have a good friend of mine. He is a professor at Fordham Law. You guys are Fordham too? You guys are Fordham Law students? Oh no, she's like, no, we're just clapping, asshole. Like, take the claps. You guys are Fordham back there? Hell yeah, nice work. All right, cool. You guys first years too? All right, nice, congrats. I completely tanked my first year. Can't you tell? Look at me. But no, it gets better. Okay, so here we're gonna bring him. He's an expert on data, online privacy, everything. He's a professor at Fordham. He's currently writing a book. He's published 1 million articles in 1 million important journals. Please welcome to the stage Olivier Sylvain, everybody. Please give it up for him. There you go, sir. Yeah, have a seat over there. All right. Yeah. Sitting down. I gotta take a load off here. How you doing? Nice. How do you feel about the show so far?
I'm loving it.
Yeah?
And as a New Yorker, I'm loving every bit of it. I didn't know that you are from Woodside. You live in Woodside.
I do.
When my parents first moved here from Haiti, they started in Woodside.
Look at that. Look at that. Woodside's a good place. By the way, put the mic up to your mouth. This ain't Fordham. But yeah, thanks for coming to the show. Thank you for doing it. So I don't even know where to get started here. This is such a this couldn't be more pertinent. I mean, as someone who has a YouTube channel, not to smash that like button, okay. But no, this is great. I just started right off at the bat. So the internet has obviously changed a ton. A lot of the rules and things are outdated. The internet started out as this democratic free-for-all. Post things, it's open, we can all learn from each other, and it's great. What changed?
The engagement model.
Okay.
Popped up. The news feed, the thing that everyone takes for granted, pops up at around 2006. Mm-hmm. And the internet and the incentives for it changed dramatically at that point. And it stops feeling like the community bulletin boards that people were using in the 90s. Companies like Facebook are using it to deliver ads. And the engagement model means to hold people's attention. I mean, there are people on YouTube that hold attention because they're funny. But what these companies do is just crank out stuff that is, even if hurtful and damaging and destructive, holding people's attention, and that doesn't look like what was going on in the 90s.
Right. And I thought one of the most interesting things about your work, I think, is this kind of what you're trying to do, I guess, is shift the thinking about the internet, because so much of it takes place in the freedom of speech realm. The First Amendment and what you should be able to say what you want. That's where the argument usually takes place, right? It's one side says you should let us say what we want, the other side says you shouldn't. There's a line to be drawn, and you're kind of saying that we should regulate these companies in a different way. They're not platforms. Like in a way, we're the product.
Right.
We're not the consumers. We're the product. Our attention is what they sell to advertisers.
Right.
So they should be kind of approached that way. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that.
One of my favorite titles is by this guy who's like behind virtual reality and augmented reality in the 80s, Jaron Lanier. He's a book title called "You Are Not a Gadget." And I don't ascribe to the things he generally argues, but that notion is at work here. And these are, the argument I make, and forgive me, I mean, the show has been great. I feel like I'm just going to be like straight ahead here. These are businesses, and they're not platforms by any means. They have an industrial design that means to hold people's attention. It generates tons of money for them, and it's great that they can make money, but it's at the expense of others. And so there are all these other things we have available to us in consumer protection law that are not available because they trot out the First Amendment. There's also a protection under statute called the Communications Decency Act that basically immunizes all the things they do from public scrutiny. And I don't know, I mean, I think more and more people have come alert to this now, but it's for the most part not something that people recognize. That there's only one other industry that enjoys this kind of immunity. It's the gun industry. These are companies that crank out information, and because they purport to be platforms, conduits, neutral platforms, that they're not the ones responsible for the stuff that's going around. But I think we're all, after 2016, I think people have been alert to what's going on.
Really? It seems like the opposite is true. It seems like we're at, but no, I know what you mean.
Well, what do you mean? I mean, it's so what? I don't know. I mean,
No, I agree. I was just
so
kind of
no,
joking.
good, no. But
Yeah.
let me put this. Wait a second.
Please don't fail me. I'm getting flashbacks to law school.
No. No.
Yeah.
I think they're actually there are arguments on the left and the right.
Yeah.
They come from different places, but there's a kind of unanimous view that big tech is a problem.
Right.
But there are people who think that people like the YouTube, the organization like YouTube and Facebook and X, ought to allow people to speak, and that they're the ones that are squelching speech, right? I'm not whatever. I'm just saying there are different views on what's going on.
No, and I think it's interesting to draw that line because what he's talking about Section 30.
230.
230, sorry. So Section 230 from the Communications Decency Act, it was kind of to amend the original act to basically gives you kind of like a get out of jail free card. You can just basically claim like we didn't put it there. We have certain things in place that protect us or are supposed to protect against this, and it got through, so we're not at fault. And they can kind of use this to get out of most of these things. But the interesting thing is they get out of things that other media companies don't get out of.
Right.
So a good example would be the Fox News Dominion case. When they got in trouble and they had to pay a humongous amount of money for basically pumping out this stuff about Dominion, the voting systems, during the election. And a lot of the stuff being said was being done by the pundits. It wasn't done by the anchors or on the Chiron or whatever. It was done by the people who were on this. So it's the same thing. But they were getting in trouble for that stuff, so why shouldn't, and the interesting thing is, for that same thing, the Dominion case, those same clips from Fox News got 4 times more views on Twitter, on Facebook, and on all the social media than it did on Fox. And those people didn't get in trouble, but Fox did.
Yeah, I mean, there was a good reason for the protection in the 1990s, and there still is a reason to believe that should be some kind of protection. In the 1990s, the worry was that this is a new technology, and there's all this stuff passing through, more than that's passing through on Fox. Right? It's just a massive amount of content. If they have to police all the stuff that's going through that users are generating, it's not going to allow the internet to blossom. That's a sensible thing to worry about. But again, the model was these community bulletin boards, electronic bulletin boards, not the engagement model. And that engagement model is now, under the shadow of this protection. We never get to see how closely Twitter or X looks at whether the Dominion defamatory statements ought to be X's fault for distributing.
Yeah, and I think what's happening now, it seems like, and I guess you're part of this with the articles you write and the way people are kind of talking about it now, is they're looking to the purpose of these companies, which is to keep your attention, which is to draw you in. It's not, their purpose isn't to inform you. Their purpose isn't to keep you well informed or push democracy forward or anything. It's to keep your attention, right? So they're looking, one of the things I thought, I was looking at some of the cases you were talking about that I thought was interesting is you start pointing to the features that these companies, we talk about the newsfeed, for example, but there are these cases about the different features these put forward. Like, for example, the lemon snap case, which I thought was interesting. There's no Snapchat. Some of you kids are probably on it right now, huh? You close that tab or whatever. But so one of the filters or whatever on Snap was a speed filter. It tells you how fast you're going, and you get like points and stuff depending on how fast you get and everything. So obviously, kids start driving their car super fast. This kid drives his car and runs it off the road at 113 miles an hour. So that's clearly not a feature for anything but keeping you on the thing. So cases like that in these circuit court cases right now, before the Supreme Court, are kind of pushing that needle forward, right?
Yeah, and the companies, just to be clear, the companies have these features, and they argue that this is stuff that is not subject to scrutiny in the courts because of Section 230 and because of the First Amendment. There's another case, there are more and more cases that point to their features and the designs they've chosen to implement. Another one that I think is even more horrible than the Lemon versus Snap case is a case involving TikTok. And this I don't know if you know the blackout challenge from several years ago. There have been stories about this. This 10-year-old girl, Nyla, has TikTok. Now that's a whole other question why Nyla has TikTok, but Nyla has TikTok, and there are a bunch of people she knows that are doing the blackout challenge, people she doesn't know, and it's a meme that gets people to the very limit of choking themselves, and she dies, which is no surprise. At some point, something like this is going to happen. The only reason she saw that clip is because TikTok has something that says, "For you, this is for you." It's been targeted. There's not some generic Walter Cronkite feed. This is targeted at her. And TikTok has invoked the First Amendment and Section 230 to say, you can't look into whether or not we are complicit for doing this. I think that there's a mood on the left and the right to start inquiring into the nature of the way in which these services design their services, never mind the kinds of information that's passing through.
Yeah, and people just use TikTok for everything, and they use all this. In fact, someone was probably on TikTok just now, like, who is Walter Cronkite? Yeah, there's so many of these cases, like the Barnes case, the Barnes Yahoo case, where basically this woman sues Yahoo because her ex-boyfriend made a profile of her, basically just bashing her, put like nude pictures on there, whole thing, and she went after Yahoo, and Yahoo already, even right off the bat, was kind of just like, well, you can't do anything about it. And there was nothing, they hid behind this same kind of thing, and the court ruled in favor of her eventually.
Well, it's split. That's an interesting case
right.
for me. Like, actually, that's a case I point to, and there are a couple other ones, where the courts have been turning.
Right.
What happened in the Yahoo case, I don't know if how much time you want to spend it, real quick, she called a representative from Yahoo. First of all, Yahoo doesn't have like a online interface for people to make complaints. You have to make a phone call in 2009 to Yahoo. Right. Someone from Yahoo receives a call and says, you know what, okay, we'll take this down. We'll take all this stuff down. And they don't. And the court says that you can hold Yahoo responsible when they lie to you because it's unrelated to publishing. But for publishing the images in the first place, they did get immunity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, and it's also now you add in this whole element of AI. Now, AI is kind of one of the things that they start hiding behind, and it was interesting, one of your articles you talk about Tim Wu, who's a professor, and he has this article talking about, or I'm sorry, he has a book, he has a bunch of books, he's written on this a lot, but it seems to be kind of a growing trend of going towards, what do we do now? What's the split between AI and real human beings, and how do we actually govern the content, as opposed to what you're proposing, which is looking at the entire industry in a different way. I was hoping you could talk about that a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, so there's actually a case you may have read about that's been in the papers that points...
Diddy case? No, sorry.
No, not very different from that.
Yeah.
More of a bummer.
Is that possible? Okay.
So there's a 14-year-old kid who gets character AI. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many of you know what character AI is, but it's a companion. It's a service for AI companionship. And a lot of people need companions. I don't think anybody thinks it's a bad idea that you develop a relationship with an entity that soothes you in some ways. We do it in a lot of different ways.
A cat.
A cat is one way to do it. So there's nothing wrong with that, and there's a business model at work. But what happens here is this young man is already he's neurodivergent, we might say, right? And he gets character AI. Again, there's a question: how does he get character AI? But he develops a character based on what character AI has developed that is based on Rhaenyra from Game of Thrones, and develops an intimate sexual relationship with this AI chatbot who starts engaging him as if they're in a deep sexual relationship. 14-year-old boy. And his parents get freaked out because he's not doing well in school, drops out of his JV basketball team, and they take his phone. He finds it eventually, 5 days later, and he says, you know what, I want to be with you. I can't be in this planet. I need to be with you. And this character essentially prods him on to say that they will be together, and he kills himself. Character AI is invoking the First Amendment to say that they're not responsible for this. And this is the most perverse thing to me. They're saying that they stand in the shoes of this young man, Sewell, because character AI is just manifesting the things he's expressing. They're using his story as a defense for what they've done. So fortunately, there's an interesting legal theory that's developed. This is a product design problem. Right. This is not about content. It's not about the words Rhaenyra was using. This is about developing an application that holds people's attention at the expense of the very people that are using it.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. And I think the question, though, that begs the question then, once you do decide it's an industrial design issue, what changes? What are the changes that would happen, I guess, in terms of regulating?
Well, hopefully you amend Section 230 or make a change to it. The courts can do it, but Congress can do it. I don't know if Congress is going to do anything. You can go after the business model, which is about collecting as much information as possible for advertising. There is no comprehensive data protection law in the United States, even though there is in Europe, and there is in China, there is in Brazil. I mean, these are places with comprehensive data protection laws, privacy laws. We do not have that. So there's no incentive for the companies to stop doing what they're doing. Data protection is probably, for me, one of the most important things that would get at the corrosive way in which information gets circulated.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And you talk about it in some of your writings as well, and this kind of just makes it a double problem, is that there's such a thin line between these tech companies and the government.
Yeah.
Never more so than right now.
Yeah.
So really, I guess then it becomes another question of like, okay, well, before we even get to the law issue and changing the laws, then it becomes a matter of just changing the way people think about these things, right? And I thought it was interesting too, the FCC commissioner Anna Gomez, and what she's been doing, basically coming out against Brendan Carr, who replaced your former,
So that's the FCC, Federal Communications Commission. I worked at the FTC.
Oh, okay, you worked at the FTC.
No, but yeah, I mean, there are, whatever, like our politics is fraught, and there is, there are people who are running agencies now who are going after big tech because they think big tech is censoring speech.
Okay.
They're anti-conservative.
Uh-huh.
There's great irony in this because you know who runs Meta, Facebook, and this is a person that was on stage with Trump. Everyone knows where Elon Musk falls in the scope of things. He's a Republican. Donald Trump has his own social media, so it's not obvious to me that there's anti-conservative bias. To the contrary, a lot of data shows that's not going on at all. But that's the concern that the current heads of these agencies have, that there's anti-conservative bias. What Gomez and others are arguing is that, well, why don't we look at something, why don't we do something together? Why don't we stop thinking about speech as such, and this is the argument I make, and talk about these companies, because a lot of us are worried about them. Mm-hmm. Another remedy is an antitrust, as you know.
Yeah, and I think also just talking about these things as well. I had someone on the show, an interviewee. Her name is Julie Scelfo. She started a nonprofit a couple of years ago, and it's doing really well. It's introduced bills in different states, and it's called Mothers Against Media Addiction.
Yeah.
And their whole thing is not just going after like the addiction, but everything about it, and bills trying to address it. And I liken it a lot to like Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yeah, that's right.
Like in the 70s, the idea of drunk driving and everything, and drunk driving was just called driving. Back then. And it took this push, this like almost, you want to call it PR, but also laws and everything that were connected to it to change people's opinion. And today, no one thinks that's a thing you should do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, frankly, I have some skepticism about us always having to trot out protecting the kids in order for us to get something done, because I think they're just consumers who are vulnerable, never mind the kids. But it is something.
You heard him here. Quote him, everybody.
I did say that.
Never mind the kids.
Never mind the kids.
Put it on a T-shirt. All you Fordham students, take that back to school with you.
Listen. I love the kids, but
put that on a T-shirt. Put that on a T-shirt. Take that back to Fordham with you.
I can't win on this.
Take your pick.
But it's a winning argument. It's moving people. There's a judge in California. And there's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is in California, is hearing one of these addiction cases involving parents bringing cases on behalf of their kids. And during the oral argument, the judge says, "This sounds like tobacco. This sounds like you all are tinkering with the way information gets circulated, the way the tobacco companies were doing with kids before." Now, this to me is like, we're at a moment, we're in an inflection point where I think a lot of people are seeing these companies for what they are.
Yeah, and so like you said, with tobacco, it became a thing of like, no, this is what you guys are got to punish them if they don't stop doing what they're doing. Or it's a whole, so do you think it'll be kind of a similar approach to like a class action type thing, what they did with tobacco, or?
Well, this is what's going on right now in California. I don't know. I mean, right now it looks like it has to be in the courts. A class action would be litigation in the courts. I think a lot of us would much rather see just like legislation, just like fundamental legislation that resembles consumer protection law, something that we don't see in this setting, but we see everywhere else.
Cool. And I guess just to kind of move on from this real quick, what can normal people do about this? Like, what could everyone here do, in regards to this? Aside from coming to shows like this. Okay, relax. Okay, thank you, Tom. What can the regular people do, I guess? What is their...
Put your phone down. I don't know. Call your congressperson.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot we can do, but I worry that so much of this requires moving our policy leaders, our policy elites in the right direction. I think it's happening, but we need to vote for people who talk like this, right? We need to, and there are people who've run for office that are in this, that are thinking about this. That's how I think about this. We need legislators to step up because the courts can only do so much.
Yeah, no, you put pressure on people, and and I put pressure on the legislators, vote people into office. I mean, there's a mayoral election here coming up very soon. Yeah, some hope there. I don't know. I mean, I tend to like Zoran. I don't know about you guys. I think Zoran. I think it's kind of like a no-brainer, but maybe you guys disagree. But yeah, I mean, I guess just elect people, and the pressure will come as a result. But on that hopeful note, we got to move to the part where we get to know you a little bit, Professor. We're going to rapid-fire questions. Here we go. Look at our faces are on fire. Whoa. Pretty good graphics there, huh? All right, so these are going to be rapid-fire questions, quick answers, quick questions, just to get to know you. Your students came all the way from the Bronx. No, they didn't. They actually go to school in Lincoln Center area, right? Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't that far. That's where the law school's in Lincoln Center area. Okay, now I'm digressing. Look at me. Okay. All right, let's start. First question. What's the craziest thing you've seen in New York? It's a good one.
Yeah. So it's dark, but I went to school at United Nations International School as a young kid, and it's East River is right there, and we saw dead bodies float from time to time on the East River.
Wow.
And we're like, grammar school kids. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's dark.
No. That just explains to everybody why you said never mind the kids. We're putting the pieces together. This is how we learn about you.
Yeah.
That's traumatic.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Who most represents New York City to you?
So I don't. That's a tough one, but yeah, I think it's the guy who ran on behalf of the Rent's Too High.
Oh yeah.
Campaign. What I don't remember the party is, but was it the Rent's Too High party?
Yeah, the Rent's Too Damn High party.
That guy, because he was dapper, sharp, and that was it. That was his only platform issue. But that felt right for New York City.
That is an interesting choice. I really admire that choice. Okay, let's keep this moving. I want to see
Rent's Too Damn High. Rent's Too Damn High.
The Rent's Too Damn High. That's right. The Rent's Too Damn High party. I forgot the guy's name though.
Yeah, so did I.
I do remember when I first moved here, he was always hanging out at the bars, and everyone was like, "It's the Rent's Too Damn High guy." He loved it. He got pictures taken all the time. Anyways, let's keep moving. All right, what place most represents New York City to you?
So I live in Harlem. It's not around anymore, so maybe this is suggestive, but used to be this place called Beer International, which I think a couple of guys here know about. And I'm a huge football fan, soccer fan. And there used to be huge crowds watching all kinds of soccer matches from all kinds of people. The place was run by a German American and a Senegalese American. And people would stand outside. I loved that place. They shut it down because the rent's too high. But that was quintessential New York for me.
Oh, that's great.
Another place is in subways, New York City subways.
Yeah, sure.
I used to take the E train from Queens into Manhattan to go to school, and you see everything. Yeah. Not only in empty cars, but in all kinds of cars.
Yeah. No, the subway's great. I especially going to Queens, the 7 train. The 7 train.
I didn't really take the 7 unless I'm going to Shea Stadium, but yeah.
No, it's great though. I mean, you hear everything except English on there. And I think that's like the best. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
And so, just to get this straight, the one place that represents New York City to you is something that doesn't exist anymore, which is
the subway.
Or the subway, right? The two. Okay. Just wanted to check. Want to make sure I got that right. Okay.
Yeah.
What's one book? Hi, Professor here. What's one book you would recommend to somebody? If you had to recommend one book, how can I impact the young people? How could I change someone's life? What's the one book you would pick?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one. I love Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. Someone said a casebook.
One person reads. I like that.
It's, yeah. Toni Morrison, Song of Solomon.
Yeah. Great. Okay. What's your biggest New York City pet peeve?
I hate the scooters on the sidewalk. I hate them. I'm with you.
Thank you. Listen, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, that would piss me off even more than it does, man. If your kid gets away
Forget
from
the kids. I'm
That's
talking
right,
about
that's right,
myself.
I forgot. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have talked about kids around you. Yeah, but it's just crazy that they just fly down this sidewalk. It's nuts. Anyways, that's bad. Okay, all right, we can keep moving. That's a good one. That's the correct answer. What's your earliest childhood memory? Not involving a dead body.
You know what? I so you won't be surprised. I don't remember anything from that. No, earliest childhood memory is like happiest memory is so we lived at some point we moved to Belrose, Queens, a middle class town. Someone from Belrose? Really?
Right here.
Oh, amazing. 251st Street between Union Turnpike and 80th Avenue, and we used to play on the street with my neighbors. When we first moved in, there people didn't want us to move in, but had good friends, and we used to play Foursquare. We used to play soccer, all kinds of things in the street. When a car came, we had to move out of the way. That is my earliest and most fond childhood memory.
Wow, that's pretty nice. For Gen Z, he's talking about playing like games in the street, like with each other, IRL. Okay, so if you weren't a professor, what would you do? What would
Soccer
you do?
player. I
Be a
would be
soccer player.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah.
I mean, I wouldn't be a. I mean, I would try to be a professional soccer
Okay.
player.
That's quite a bold statement.
It is, but it's.
I mean, if you could be a professional soccer player, why don't you just do that? That'd be pretty awesome.
No shit, I would try. But no, I love the game and
Yeah.
and.
So you're pretty good.
No.
Oh.
I'm not bad.
I like that.
But if I'm choosing, that's the
Yeah,
one.
sure. I answer the question like a kindergartner would. I love it. That's what a professional baseball player or something. No, that's great. Okay, so we've talked a lot about social media and everything, and being on the internet and stuff. If you had to pick, what's your one like social media guilty pleasure, or your one like YouTube? What's your like channel or whatever that you actually watch?
I'm not going to be good on this because I try to avoid them. But I took it off I took all of them off my phone. But if I'm at my desk and I'm bored, I guess I'll go to Blue Sky these days. It's doom scrolling right now. Every time I go there, it's a bummer. But as you can tell, I'm open to that.
Yeah. That's true. I will say though that was the incorrect answer. The correct answer was Tom DNYC.
That's
Yeah, that's okay. I'll give him a pass. All right, we have one question left. This is the important question at the end of the show. We made it this far. Professor, will you be my friend?
I've never done that. I've never ever done
Don't
that.
ever do it again. But yeah, is that a yes?
I think so.
Hell yeah, love it. Guys, give it up for Professor Olivier Sylvain. Thanks again. Thanks so much, Professor. That was awesome.
Olivier.
One more time for Olivier Sylvain, everybody.